All right. Thank you again so much for joining me. My guest is Eric Chai. He is the lead game developer and president of Pixel Reef. Their new game, Paper Beast, is now available on Viveport and Infinity. Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be with you.
So what inspired you to make this? What are some there are games about nature, but there isn't anything quite like this. It's very unique.
The first idea was to create a game about wildlife, and specifically about the way animals work and evolve. It's always fascinating to see animals breathing, working. So I prototype in a 2D this kind of thing. When the VR came, and especially when I test the HTC Vive, it has been a revelation when I start to interact with everything in VR. And why not create a game about wildlife and locomotion in VR? So that is really the starting point.
No, I got what you were going for. I think that there is the first part of the game, the first section. It's very interesting how it shifts from being what I think a lot of people find as kind of like a very standard experience, and like navigating menus, and there are prompts, and there's a nice area you're in with things that light up. It's sort of what people have grown to expect to see in VR, and then it completely changes.
Yes,
so I think it's a big shift of perspective for the player. And this is definitely one of the questions I wanted to ask you, but do you feel that, and this is the feeling that I got from playing the game, was it really struck me how used to and acclimated I am to virtual spaces and communicating virtually. Like, to me, I mean, I work in virtual reality, so it's not that unusual to be interacting with these kinds of things. So it's almost sort of normal at the very beginning, but that transition into this, the curtain falls away, you're in this totally other world.
Yes.
It's a big perspective shift, but I think it works perfectly, because I immediately was very, very struck by it. And this is kind of one of the main questions I wanted to ask you, is the feeling that I got, I was taken aback, because it really made me think, wow, I don't really spend a lot of time in nature. Like, there's less and less of a reason to go outside. I mean, especially now. Everybody's doing like we're communicating virtually. But I was really struck by the fact that, wow, I don't interact with nature that much, or animals for that matter.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty true for all of humanity now.
I want the people to get reconnected to nature in some way. And that's why there is absolutely no human in the game. And you don't even have a body. Just you interacting with animals. And even if it's somewhere inside the data, the world looks natural. There is some strange glitch or anomaly with letters and numbers in the sky, and all this weird event in the world, but it's a natural world. And yes, it's really again that question about our relationship with the technology, and what is our place in our world, which is a world where technology has a huge place in our life, and but we are living in a natural world, of course. So creating a game in virtual reality, but reconnect the player to natural wildlife. What was the goal? And this goal was very clear when the idea to have a world of partly made of data came, and it came because of the paper. Because
yeah, that's another thing I wanted to ask about. Like, why paper? Is it because paper is becoming less and less a thing that we really use?
It is something that is it comes from a tree, so it's something natural. It's and it is also something that is connected to the information, to the data. So it's really the perfect link between the world of technology and information and the wildlife.
Because I was also thinking of like origami, because you do have some Japanese soundtrack of some Japanese music. So I was like, I don't know if this is too far of a stretch to make the connection, but origami. I noticed you have a painting of Mount Fuji behind you.
Yes.
So I don't know if there's what kind of Japanese influence there was.
I love Japanese culture. Yes. So and origami has been an influence for the animals, and it's true that the song at the very beginning and then after later in the game is I wanted a song that is really not something that we are used to listen. So have it
I definitely got that. It definitely like shocks you a little bit, because it's like, here's just another thing that you don't understand. It's like Japanese punk rock music, especially if you don't speak Japanese. It's like
some people get very surprised by this and even disappointed a bit, because especially by the beginning when you start with this fictional musical apps, and but what's that? Is it the game or not?
I think it works to great effect to disorient and confuse players, but in a delightful way. I never felt frustrated playing this game. I felt very intrigued, and I'm getting pulled through the experience, and then messing around with things to see how they work, and like, you know, trying to like pick up even if it is the big, like the big reel-to-reel tape player, trying to move it, and you can't really interact with it. There are all these kind of little signposts that push players through the world and tell them what they can meaningfully interact with and what they can't. So adding a lot of weight to something, like after you try to manipulate it, it's like, oh, well, this just isn't working. But I think you did a fantastic job of introducing people to this world, but not having it feel, totally overwhelming. And this kind of leads into my next question, is that for a lot of your career, a lot of your games are about other worlds. Mm-hmm. They're about out of this world. That's literally the name of the game. Or in another world. It has two different names in EU and America. But Heart of Darkness is another one, another great one.
Yes.
So I'm curious, and Paper Beast seems to be kind of fitting into that theme. What is your interest in other worlds, other realities, other planets, alien landscapes? Like, where does your interest in this come from? Like, why you seem to be very influenced by it? Like, where does this come from?
That's a good question. It's difficult to answer to this question. I think I I've always been fascinated by overworld and even overworld on our own planet, and especially by astronomy, the star, the galaxy, always fascinated me, and have a telescope so I can observe the star and the planet, and it gives a really you can feel a bit of how small our world is in comparison of the rest of the universe. And
I mean, literally, like that's in Paper Beast. I mean, sorry to give away the ending to anybody, but you end up on the moon looking at the Earth.
yes,
I think there's a very, very specific reason why you did that. So I know, kind of skipping to the end of the interview, but I did want to ask you about the ending. It's a little bit of I get what I think what you're trying to say, and this is just my interpretation, but I think by ending on the moon, looking at the Earth, it is that this question of scale, you know, how small we are in relation to the universe, and how big and complicated really everything is. Maybe to the point where we don't notice. You know, maybe
Yes.
we're very monofocused. But
definitely, yes. It's exactly that, and it's the experience of this feeling, because and this moment of the game is the counterpoint of all the player experience inside Paper Beast world. So, and it's something that I really wanted to be felt by the player. So, and to have the right feeling, sometimes you need to expose the people to something else that create a special mind state, or I'm not sure I'm clear, but
no,
because
absolutely, yeah.
The game is very surrealistic in many ways, and every place has its own crazy idea, like a blade that cut out the sky, like
one of the most striking moments from the game when that happens, and all the numbers and things start coming down. It's like a massive rainstorm. It's incredibly striking. But I think that it is very surreal. But I think you have a message throughout the game. You're just trying to tell people, look, this is important. You need to examine this idea, you know, very closely. And for me, it ended when you're on the surface of the moon. You're looking at the Earth. It feels like the levels all the way from the parade of the animals leading up to that. Like there's a callback to that moment. And it feels like there's just this march forward that just is not stopping. It can't stop, because unless things are in motion, unless things are moving, things are just sort of static, they're sort of dead. So I really got this feeling that it was that the message that I took away was that, you know, human beings, we're on this march forward into some place, and we could go to some place really incredible, because I think towards the end you have that, as you're walking towards what looks like a big television screen, you have that audio of it sounds like one of the space missions, maybe like an Apollo mission or something.
Yes, I'm super happy to hear what you say, because it's exactly this. I have nothing to ask. I have nothing to add after what you said. You expressed perfectly.
But the feeling I got was that you're saying, hey, this technology, it can take us somewhere really amazing. Like there's a good ending. I think people, you know, like the show Black Mirror,
Yes,
Yeah, it's like
it's not in the mood of Black Mirror.
No, exactly. It's like the opposite. Like to me,
Yes.
Black Mirror is very like, look how bad technology is. Like we're in for a lot of trouble. Like if you think the world today is complicated, give it 20 more years and we're going to see like how terrible things can be because of technology. So it's almost like this conversation about technology. It's always like, well, how bad is it going to be? Artificial intelligence, or they say social media is really harmful for you, but there's a lot in technology that's pretty. It's enabled us to go to the moon. There's some amazing things about technology. So I think it's about embracing what I took away from the ending is that we're all going somewhere.
Exactly.
And we need to embrace the good parts of it, not be so worried about because I think you do express that like having the data falling out of the sky and like a storm, and it sort of like slaps into the ground, and it's almost like it's not like water, it's like sludge. It almost is like a waste product. So it's like, oh, like you can, and the feeling of us being disassociated from nature, like I get that, but I don't think it's condemning people or technology. I think it's just challenging us to look at it in a different way and see what good could come out of technology. Is that something you had in mind?
My opinion is that technology has a really good side. For example, as you said, we go to the moon, and with technology, we have a better understanding where we are in the universe, and which is absolutely important because the sun is not turning around the Earth, no, and that's it gives another perspective to the humanity, and this game is here to give another perspective of nature, another perspective of the place of the Earth in the world, and and the game is not a criticize about technology, so it's more about a question of the artificial and the natural, and which is really how our existence is built today. We are already on the edge of both.
To me, it had the message of, while you're alive, pay attention to the world around you. Try to, and that's the one thing I found myself doing was not abusing the animals. Not like throwing them around or like, teasing them, trying to keep the food away from them or something. Like, I was always very careful. And if I like, if I remember I picked up it's like a crab or something, but it like flew away in the wind, and I was like, oh no, I felt bad. I didn't mean to do that. I felt bad. So I think that there's something, animals have a particular kind of innocence. They can't be evil. So I think as a conscious being going through this world, I think your attention is being drawn to the responsibility that you have to treat animals and nature with not just respect, but I think kindness.
Yes.
I think we owe the earth for keeping us alive. I mean, at the same time, to be fair, the earth is trying to kill us at the same time. Nature is pretty horrible sometimes. But at the same time, we shouldn't go out of our way to be destructive.
Yes, and it creates in the game, there is some bond that is created with between the player and animals.
Bond.
Link.
Yeah.
Bond. Yes,
yeah,
okay.
you feel connected to them because you're relying on them as the player. You don't know anything about where you are. You're relying on them to help you navigate the world because without them, you're kind of lost. So every time one of them would sort of disappear off into the horizon, I felt a bit lonely. I was like, oh, well, there goes my friend, basically.
Yeah.
But then you discover new animals and they help you as well. Well, great. This has been so great talking to you. I definitely don't want to keep you any longer than absolutely necessary. It's been a great conversation. Paper Beast is available now on Viveport, Infinity. You can also get it on Steam. It's on the Oculus Store, I believe, as well, and PlayStation VR. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, we're not forgetting any of the places. All right, you can get it anywhere. I maybe will be a little bit biased. I think you should be playing it on Infinity, but maybe you're more of a maybe you want to try it out on Oculus, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just play the game because it's fantastic. It's a game that deserves to be experienced. I think people are going to be loving it for years to come. Eric, thank you so much again for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much, Alex, and it was a pleasure. And yes, we made this game to share it with a player. So yes, please play this game. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
All
Thanks.
right, you heard the man. Go out there and play it. All right, Eric, thank you again so much. I really appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.